Hello, everyone, and welcome to PSAT SAT Proctor Training. Today, we will cover a variety of different topics, which are very important to the success of standardized testing here. I want to make a point to emphasize that these policies are important for both security reasons and to protect students from disruptions on test day. The topics we will discuss today include test security, a general overview of your responsibilities as proctors and monitors, standards for equipping your test room, and important forms and materials that you are required to complete. First, we will cover important test security guidelines. Last year, the most irregularity reports came from issues with phones during testing, which is why I want to cover this topic first and foremost. Electronic devices, including smartwatches and mobile devices, can be used to record test questions and answers, or used to bring answer keys into the testing room. For this reason, College Board strictly prohibits such devices to protect test content and prevent security breaches. College Board policy requires staff to collect phones and electronic devices, including wearable technology, before testing begins. We will go over the collection process in a minute, but right now I want to emphasize that once the warning script has been read to students during initial instructions, if a prohibited device is seen in a student's possession, regardless of whether it's making noise, the proctor must confiscate the device. You will then need to call for assistance to inspect the device and dismiss the student from the testing room. It's also important to be aware that phones or any devices are not allowed at any time during testing. This includes breaks or trips to the restroom. It is your responsibility as a test proctor or monitor to monitor students during all breaks and test time to ensure no one is accessing a device. In regards to device collection, I want to review for you the procedure outlined by College Board so we can be sure the process goes smoothly for everyone. Any phones or technology that are brought into the testing room must be powered off. It may be helpful to communicate this as students are walking in, as well as once you begin reading instructions for device collection. There is a warning script in the instructions section of the test that serves as a last call warning for students to power off their device and put them away in their designated spot. It is really up to you as the proctor to determine the best procedure for having students put away their devices. College Board allows two options for device collection. Either they be put in a bag or backpack and stored away from the student, or proctors collect individual devices from the students. Our plan as a school is to do the first option, which is have students store their devices in a bag or backpack and store them away from the students. This can be accomplished either by having students place their belongings in the back of the room, along bleachers in the gym, or wherever is best given your testing room. It is also up to your discretion as to whether you want this to be done before or during your reading of instructions. It is important to note that if for any reason a device makes noise from a student's backpack during the test, this is not grounds for dismissal since the device is not within the student's possession at that time. If you do hear a device making noise, you as the proctor should power off the phone to prevent additional disturbances and warn the student that additional disturbances will result in dismissal. Also, please inform me of any noises or disturbances made from phones so I can document it. Next, we will talk about seating policy. According to College Board, according to their policy, students are required to be spaced at least 3 feet apart and all facing the same direction for testing. Please ensure that your rooms are set up in accordance with these parameters. If you are proctoring in a classroom that is not your typical classroom, please make sure that that room is set up correctly on the practice day, which is the day before testing. Students are never allowed to pick their own seats for testing. They must have an assigned seat upon arrival. Typically, students are assigned seats alphabetically. Please assign students their seat on practice day so that they know where to sit on the test day. On test day, you as the proctor will need to complete the seating chart. The seating chart can be found on the back cover of the manual, but I will also provide you with a large seating chart printed out on a separate sheet that you'll pick up the morning of test day with the rest of your materials. Let's now go over some important information regarding breaks. At all times during breaks, students must be monitored. An unscheduled break is a break that a student takes individually, which does not fall during the official break time. Only one student is allowed to take an unscheduled break at a time. This includes trips to the restroom. Please understand that this student will still need to be monitored. In addition, when a student takes an unscheduled break, it is your responsibility to remind that student that no extra time will be allowed for testing while they're taking the break, unless College Board gives the student accommodations for breaks as needed. According to College Board policy, when a student takes an unscheduled break, staff should collect the test book and answer sheet as the student leaves the room to make sure that the test book is the actual test book and to make sure no pages have been removed. In order to reduce disruptions and distractions, please set clear guidelines for breaks beforehand for appropriate behavior. For example, students are strictly prohibited from accessing phones or any electronic devices, books, or notes during breaks. Students are also to refrain from talking in the hallways since other students in other rooms will still be testing. Students may not go to their lockers or leave the building at all during testing. That wraps up our discussion on security in the test room, and we'll now begin to cover an overview of general information that is important to know for test day. For one, it is your responsibility to follow the test script exactly. Please be familiar with the script so you're confident to answer any questions students may have. In addition, it is very important that you remain vigilant during testing. This means you are required to walk around the room and monitor students. According to College Board, staff should walk around the room while students are entering identifying information and during the test to make sure each student is working alone and on the proper test sections. No one involved in the test administration should read, grade papers, use a computer or mobile phone, or engage in any activity unrelated to test administration. For this reason, please consider your dress and footwear for the test day. Avoid wearing shoes or clothes that may be loud or uncomfortable to walk around in for monitoring purposes. All testing staff should remain in the testing room at all times. College Board requires a particular ratio for students to staff for testing, so it is important that you remain in the test room, even if you are in a large room with several monitors. At no time should students be left unattended in the testing room. If you do need a break, please call for assistance. I know I've already mentioned this, but I want to stress that students must be monitored at all times, during testing and during break time. Often students will try to access their phones while on a break, so it's important to be aware of this. Test materials, referring to answer sheets. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Test materials, referring to answer sheets and test booklets, should never be left unattended for any reason. It is your responsibility to be vigilant about these documents from the time you pick them up until you return them. Students are not allowed to eat or drink during testing unless they have an accommodation to do so. Food and drinks are only allowed to be consumed during established break times. With regards to timing, it is important that you are aware if you are proctoring a standard or accommodated testing room. This will determine which script you are reading and the time allotted to test sections and breaks. According to College Board policy, there must be a visible clock in the testing room for students to reference. It's also incredibly helpful to post the start and end times for each test section and for breaks so students can easily locate that information. I want us to all be on the same page regarding a signaling system for test day. If you have any questions or need assistance on test day, there are 2 ways you can reach me. First, you can radio me. This is a great option because not only will I hear it, but other staff members can hear and respond with their help. It also may be helpful to answer questions that many other staff are already having. However, I recognize that not all staff have access to radios, and radios are not the greatest option during testing as they are loud and disruptive. The second option then to reach me is by texting or calling my cell phone. I will be carrying my phone around with me, and this will be the best way to communicate on test day. If you text or call me, I can also use my radio to pass along information to others if you're in the middle of testing. Next, we will cover information about equipping the test room. It is your responsibility to ensure that the test room is set up according to College Board regulations, meaning that there is at least 3 feet space between each student and all students are facing the same direction. Also, according to College Board policy, any instructional material hung up in the classroom must be covered up for test day. As mentioned before, please make sure this is the case on practice day if you're not testing in your normal classroom. It is also necessary to have the following information posted for students: the test date, school's address, room number, and our school's 6-digit code 233063. Please post this information for both test day and the practice day because this will greatly help students with their bubbling. As mentioned before, test materials should never be left unattended and should always remain in the test room. Be sure to always distribute and collect materials in an organized fashion. We have to keep records for every answer sheet and test booklet, so keeping these organized when you're distributing and collecting is very important for accuracy and efficiency. Also, make sure that you collect any answer sheet and test booklet while a student takes an unscheduled break to ensure they're not leaving the test room with testing materials. Lastly, we will discuss the coordinator manual and forms that you're responsible for completing. It is your responsibility as a test proctor to review the coordinator manual and test day script. If you have any questions about the manual or the script, please ask me, Anna Wilson, Paul Petrofessa, or Derek Wiley. You need to be competent on test day to answer any questions that students may have about the testing procedure, but also please be aware you're never answering questions related to test content. At the end of test day, there's several documents that we will need you to return. You will need to return your coordinator manual with your seating chart, either on the back of the manual or on the separate sheet provided, an annotated room roster with P's marked for students that were present and A's for absent students, testing room materials report. This report will be given to you when you pick up your materials. It will have the serial number range for the test booklets and the number of answer sheets you are taking. It will need to be returned with your materials so we can account for each test booklet and answer sheet. You will also need to return all test booklets, used and unused. It's important that you return these in order by serial number so we can account for each test booklet. You also need to return all answer sheets, used and unused. And please sort these alphabetically and keep the used answer sheets separate from the unused answer sheets, as this will greatly help us when we're accounting for all the answer sheets. Please note that as you collect answer sheets, it's very helpful to check to make sure all information has been correctly provided. For example, last year we had several students write their first name in the last name column on the answer sheet and their last name in the first name column. A simple check as you are collecting answer sheets can help cut down on these types of errors. If you do notice some information is entered incorrectly, please have the student make these corrections. With that, I do want to mention that students can only make corrections to the first page on their answer sheet. They cannot go back and make any corrections to bubbling done in any of the test sections. At the end of the test day, be sure to look around the room for anything left behind. You are released from your testing duties once all your materials and forms have been returned and accounted for. I want to thank you all for your time and attention to these important policies and information regarding standardized test administration. We anticipate a smooth testing experience for both our students and staff and are here to help prepare you. Please reach out with any questions you have. Thank you again for your time.